Just when we thought this arc was about to be over, Yuto Suzuki pulls us right back in with the most insane cliffhanger. And what makes it even more exciting almost is the fact that it really could be one of those cliffhangers that either ends up being really hype when the next chapter comes out, or really, really lame and upsetting that we spent all week wondering and hoping who it could be. Now, we do know Atari, the JAA's fortune teller, is an extremely important asset to Chairman Asaki. It's the exact reason that Torres, the new Order member that has been quote-unquote training with Sakamoto, has derailed the prison arc to try and kidnap Atari under Slur and Tenkyu's noses. Considering that Shin handled Tenkyu and has basically thwarted Izuki's attempt at getting Atari onto his side, it's left her wide open now for Torres to swoop in and take her. Or at least it would have had Sakamoto also not arrived to derail the derailment. But now, it seems that Torres might fail. And perhaps the leader of the Order, OKI, did not have much faith in his new subordinate, and he knew this old gambler would not be responsible enough to handle such an important job on his own. Now, we've already seen a glimpse of most of what these new Order members are capable of. Torres is the most prominent new member that we've seen with his sandblasters and stronger than Sakamoto fighting skills. There's also Tanabata, the musician assassin that's been inducted into the Order, who sends his attacks through sound waves using his guitar and the cable. But the one new person that we got introduced to that we literally know next to nothing about is the leader OKI, who just returned from overseas for some unknown assassin job, and something tells me that will also probably be something relevant we'll get into the story later. But without jumping to any conclusions just yet, this panel we get at the end of the chapter fits the same outfit that OKI has during his introductory chapters. So I think it might be safe to say this actually might be our chance to see the leader of the Order in action. And just knowing how crazy someone like Kindako was, the former leader of the Order, I am so pumped to see. Because, not for nothing, I get hype behind leaders that understand the idea behind if you want a job done right, sometimes you just gotta fucking do it yourself. Anyway, focusing back on the chapter that we actually got, instead of what may or may not happen later, this is mostly just a transition chapter out of the flashback arc, while Heisuke has been doing his best with unlimited ammo apparently, keeping Torres off of Atari. It is revealed, of course, by the end of the flashback last chapter that Ando died in the big explosion with the ship, and Sakamoto was able to call his mission a success, even though he technically didn't put the final bullet in his target. Afterwards, he tells Nagumo and Shishiba he's gonna take a year off of the Order to try and help raise Shin, or at least get him into a solid routine. Which is just crazy that you can just take a sabbatical like that in assassinhood, but I guess this whole entire job is unorthodox. Shin is crying, of course. Not only did his dad die in the ship explosion, he now has to live with the fact that he's always gonna feel guilty that his dad died. Not only did he shoot the final bullet, Shin did take the final moments he could have spent with his father saving a little kid that was injured. And, that time could have been spent taking his final time to have closure with his dad, or better yet, saving Ando and getting him off of the boat for medical attention, and maybe his dad would still be alive. But just as he did back then as a child, as he does now in the prison arc when Shin is upset about wanting to kill Tenkyu, Sakamoto grabs Shin's shoulder and gives him the support that he needs. Earnest and honest support, no lies, reminding Shin that he's a good person. He's kind-hearted. He always puts others' needs over his own. Everyone in the world has evil thoughts and feelings and instincts. I mean, honestly, Sakamoto admits that's probably why assassins exist in the first place. But what makes Shin different from just your average assassin is that despite every reason to be evil, and despite every instinct in his head telling him to be bad, Shin tries to be good. He might not always hit the mark, but it's the attempt that matters. And it's the attempt that people love about Shin. And it's why Shin shouldn't be an assassin. Shin's real place is at Sakamoto's store with his family, not in some dirty JAA prison. Shin, every time he hears Sakamoto speak, knows his words match the truth in his heart. Sakamoto's willingness to be upfront, speak what he believes, be truthful to himself, is what has always inspired Shin to be a good person, to follow Sakamoto back on the day of that ship crash, and to continue following Sakamoto today and every day forward. It is the exact thing that inspires Shin to not go down his dark path. And in this nice moment, we get an awesome callback gag to Sakamoto killing Shin in his mind, and quite honestly, it's been a long-ass time since we've seen something like that in the manga. After watching the anime and catching up on just the very early beginning days of Sakamoto, it's almost like Yuto Suzuki is also feeling nostalgic and remembering those old days and just giving us a lot of these fun parallels with the, bunny rabbit fight with Shin, directing Sakamoto's punches, callback earlier in the big, piano theater fight, and now this. It's just all these fun parallels and reminders to just have us join in on the fun that he's having. As we get back to the seriousness of the arc, Heisuke is, again, doing his best to keep Torres off of Atari, but he's slowly giving out under the weight of not just his injuries, but overall exhaustion from just the entire prison arc. I mean, these guys just got done fighting fucking Tenkyu, who was a menace to society. Still though, Heisuke is a boss. He's refusing to give Atari up to Torres. Even though Torres is like, hey, I'm not gonna hurt her. We're gonna keep Atari safe. He's like, no. Heisuke is willing to stand his ground and protect Atari for no other reason than his friends telling him that he needs to. Which, just that level of resolve alone is enough to inspire Atari to stand in front of Torres and say, hey, I've got a lot of knowledge around luck, and just one glance at Torres is enough for Atari to tell he's on a losing streak right now. Which, honestly, I think is hysterical, especially because of what we know about Torres and how his whole entire character is that he's just in massive gambling debt and keeps fucking losing and just making the debt worse. So now we have complete confirmation that this man just genuinely has just misfortune aura around him at all times. Probably not a friend that you would want to have. Conveniently enough, Atari works in conveniences, of course. She distracts him long enough for Sakamoto and Shin to get the jump on him. Shin uses his mental command of stop, while Sakamoto jumps in for the sucker punch. And holy, the way that Suzuki draws this fucking clock. Listen, everyone's got a glass jaw when you hit him when they least expect it. And if you don't believe me, you just need to take one look at Torres' fucking skull indent in this panel, and that would be enough to convince you. Because even Sakamoto, Mr. Number One Hitman, is like, whoa, that was a little fucked up. Anyway, with the gang all back together now, they are easily able to make their way back to basement floor 1. Thanks to a combination of 1, Heisuke's insane marksmanship, who fires a bullet that clips Torres' gun safety back on and stops him from killing one of Atari's remaining guards, and also thanks to the fact that Joe Shackles has apparently been reduced to just a friendly side character that, after getting embarrassed by Shin in the first half of the prison arc, is, now just a gag character hanging on the back of Boiled as he charges through the prison because he's upset Sakamoto didn't, give him the time of day. And, I'm not mad, but my man was supposed to be one of the closest opponents to the Order that you could ever get in the JAA. And, now here he is, struggling to stop Boiled from running through the prison. I mean, this is a man that we had to hold at gunpoint while we made our way to basement floor 2. But you know what? I'm fine with all of this. I'm not mad. It's the little bit of the gag nature that reduces Joe Shackles' aura for me. But again, based off of the kind of enemy that may be making their way to the prison, we may actually require all of the help that we can get in what might be a grand finale of a fight to this awesome arc. Also, I'm just gonna have to assume that they saved Tenkyu off screen, because right after Sakamoto and Shin finish their flashback, they say, let's go, and then immediately go to help Heisuke. So I thought we were trying to save Tenkyu. Did we forget? Did the flashback completely distract us, or did we just not show it and it happened off screen? I'm sure it's just gonna be one of those things that maybe Tenkyu is a prisoner now and he's locked in there and he just thinks about it, and that's like an epilogue for his character. Maybe he does escape and he comes back as a villain or an ally, but boy, you know what? Now that I'm saying that, how shitty would it be if Sakamoto and Shin come back and like Tenkyu's just in the process of killing the entire family? Or like Demon Slayer route, he just comes home and everyone's already cooked and there's just a note saying it was Tenkyu. Obviously, I don't think that's going to happen, but still, it's interesting to me how we brushed past the whole Tenkyu point. I mean, Shin even brings up, I tried to kill Tenkyu, so maybe we're just skipping over that right now with the new arrival of a potential big threat. And again, whether or not it is OKI that is arriving, we're just going to have to wait and see next chapter to see how all of this stuff gets answered. With the mini flashback over, I'm going to admit it was actually a really welcome change of pace and a fresh interlude in what was a very intense arc and a very long fight with Tenkyu. So, while it will always be one of Shin's best fights, I am still extremely excited to see whatever the hell Yuto Suzuki is going to be cooking up for the next half of this arc, because we're clearly approaching the climax here. But guys, you already know I will be here next week when that chapter comes out to talk about it with you guys. So make sure you hit that like button if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you don't want to miss any future Sakamoto Days videos or any other series you may read weekly. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.